As part of its effort to maintain sustainable growth and development, the government of Vanuatu, through the Department of Forestry and Environment, is working in collaboration with various international agencies that provide financial and technical assistance to sustainably manage its forests, especially in the rural areas. The government is putting a lot of effort in this area to protect and preserve the natural forest, as it is part of our livelihood and it is where people find the resources for their living. This is enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of Vanuatu in the Article 7D, which states that every person has the fundamental duty to protect the Republic of Vanuatu and to safeguard the natural wealth, resources, and environment in the interest of the present generation and the future generations. Today, with the rising issues of climate change that is affecting our world today, Vanuatu needs to protect its forests and its resources, as the country is made up of small islands which are vulnerable to these changes. As the population is growing, people are putting more pressure on land for their basic needs and to sustain their livelihood, which then leads to deforestation and land degradation in some part of our islands. This poses a real threat for small islands, as Vanuatu is an archipelago of more than 80 islands, and some of them are tiny islands. For the Vanuatu government, forestry is an important sector, and particularly for the rural communities, it plays an important role in their livelihood, as it is one of their main sources of income, and it provides a wide range of products which they depend on to survive. To ensure that people don't overuse the resources, the government of Vanuatu is committing itself to see that the forests are properly managed in a sustainable way. In 2012, Vanuatu was among 4 island countries in the Pacific selected by GEF-PAS to implement a conservation project in the rural communities. In Vanuatu, 4 sites were identified, which are Lake Letes in Gawa Island, Bay Homo in South Pentecost, Lase Nue in Malekula, and the Kauri Reserve in Erromango. The 4 islands have been identified due to their biodiversity hotspot, where species endemism is particularly high, and also where species are currently threatened with extinction. Among the 4 sites, the island of Erromango was chosen because of its pristine forest and mainly because it has one of the unique population of kauri trees today in the southern hemisphere.
Erromango is one island where is special of Vanuatu in terms of vegetation. We got one good full of forest plan where we stop one primary forest where inside lo bush got all different species blow flora and fauna, all plants and animals will step inside where even though we find all our islands play me love Vanuatu and to we got all sandalwood too where we stable island there. We one all islands where all first traders only come in only so we find them out all sandalwood will stable trade what about people all islands here. And also los side block kauri trees, one island where we got huge population block kauri all established and all other islands blame you got all kind trees or some kauris.
The island of Erromango is situated in the southernmost part of the Vanuatu archipelago in the Tafea province. It's the biggest island in the southern province and the third largest island in Vanuatu. It has a total area of 888 square kilometers and a population of about 2,000 people, and its highest point is Mount Santop, which is about 886 meters above sea level. The island is mountainous. The interior consists mainly of dissected volcanic crater forming Mount William in the northern half of the island and a chain of peaks in the south. The two main villages are Port Narvin on the eastern coast and Williams Bay on the western coast of the island. Formerly known as the island of Sandalwood in the 19th century, Erromango is known for its Kauri stands, which are located in the protected Happy Land Kauri Reserve. The idea of a protected area was first suggested following an expedition by the Royal Society Percy Sladen Expedition in 1971, but lack of funding to compensate landowners for the reservation delayed formal protection until 1995, when an agreement was finally reached with the landowners. The Vanuatu government, with the support of the European Union, has established the National Kauri Reserve on the island near Happy Land Village, where these great trees, among the largest in their range and living perhaps as long as 1,000 years, can be seen growing in association with other native species in the deep forest. The Kauri Reserve is an area of 3,205 hectares of rainforest with Kauri emergent, encompassing the upper catchments of the Lampunari and Pongkil rivers in the south. It has some of the best Kauri stands left in Vanuatu. It is an area rich in biodiversity and a hotspot for a range of endemic flora and fauna. The area has been leased by the Department of Forestry for a period of 5 years that ended in May 2000.
Purpose blow agreement where forestry hemi sign with them all known as law 1995 hemi from where logging activities hemi pose one thread suppose inokata any agreement also from law all years here minister no mo hemi service ma contract blow all logging companies all ikokat lo any place around lo Vanuatu. So forestry hemi looks hemi one thread suppose inokat one formal agreement with them all knonas minister hemi sabe sign him any agreement no mo any company sabe go lo place. So purpose blow agreement there hemi specifically blow holem area hemi come also one reserve, and then while hemi stop 5 years 10 year hemi stop yumi change more laws blow forestry. So hemi naya director na mo hemi sabe sign them contract. So time where law hemi change finish yumi look say inomokat need blow review or review more renew agreement make them say naya inomokat one agreement but mi putum plan de emphasis blow lanona blow talem say resource hemi blow you must take them lead blow protection plan.
The Kauri is a type of conifer or pine tree, and the oldest tree is estimated to be around 2,000 years old. Kauri are among the world's mightiest trees, growing to more than 50 meters tall in the emergent layer above the forest's main canopy, with trunk diameters reaching 8 meters and 27 meters in girth. The tree has smooth bark and small narrow leaves. Kauri forests are among the most ancient in the world. By maturity, the top branches form an imposing crown that stands out over all other native trees, dominating the forest canopy. Agatis or Kauri provides one of the world's most highly prized timbers. Global reserves of Kauri are dwindling rapidly. Of all species, the Kauri from Vanuatu, Agatis macrophylla, is considered to be the most productive under plantation conditions. Natural stands in Vanuatu have been extensively logged in the past, and the remaining stands are under threat from logging. Therefore, the need to protect them is very crucial. In its effort to sustain its resources and maintain sustainable growth and development, the government of Vanuatu, through the Department of Forestry, has established a Forestry and Protected Area Management Project, or FPAM, which is funded by the Global Environment Facility, GEF, with the assistance of the Pacific Alliance for Sustainability, with the aim of conserving Vanuatu's biodiversity. FPAM project is considered in Vanuatu, firstly because it is consistent with the country's priorities for biodiversity conservation given in its 1999 National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. Secondly, because Vanuatu is a biodiversity hotspot where animals are in danger of extinction. And thirdly, because it has weaknesses in institutional framework. The project is implemented by Food and Agriculture of the United Nations, FAO, that provides technical assistance through its office based in the capital Port Vila, with a focus on educating the people about the importance of protecting the natural resources and managing protected areas. The project has 5 components, which the project coordinator aims to achieve during the 4-year implementation period. 1. To improve legislation and policy. 2. To extend and consolidate the protected area network. 3. To strengthen the capacity for community-based conservation management. 4. To put in place mechanisms for sustainable protected area financing. And 5. To ensure a sustainable use of biodiversity. After our first trip in March 2013 to Gower Island, Presley DOVO from the FAO office in Port Vila led a team in September 2014 to Erromango. He was accompanied by the Assistant FAO Program Officer, the Director of Agriculture and Forestry Department, an officer from the Environment Department, and an officer from the Vanuatu Cultural Center.
Purpose of meeting mainly Karamo landowners only come together and then discuss some boundary where we start so far even got all implementations all activities that we cover is the side of biodiversity assessment. Team we go down got consultations with them all landowners, let's have a decide more or less have a agreement, let them all funding agencies only glad let's have a work with them all donors, let's have a managing resources that we start.
Our 4-day journey began on the 26th of September 2014 at 5:30 a.m. when we checked in at the Boafield Airport in Port Vila. It took us about 45 minutes to fly from the capital to Dillon's Bay Airport, which is one of the 2 airstrips in Erromango. With the only truck on the island, we then traveled on a rugged road to Dillon's Bay village on the west coast, where a boat was already waiting for us. With all our bags loaded into the boat, we took off from Dillon's Bay to Ponkil, which is another coastal village towards the south. We knew that our journey will be long, but as we travel along the coast, the landscape and the scenery quickly caught our attention that we forgot about the fatigue. After more than an hour travel by sea, we finally arrived at our next destination. Pastor Carlo and his family were already waiting to welcome the team on their shores. And they all came to greet us as we landed alongside the rocks, as the main passage to the main village was a bit dangerous due to the big waves that were coming from the open ocean. They took us to the village where a big feast was being prepared especially for us. The warm hospitality and the kindness of the villagers gave us the assurance that we were in good hands, and also it showed us that they were ready to work with the team to see the project developed in their island to benefit their communities. Just after having lunch, the real test was awaiting us. We had no time to rest, as we had to walk another 2 hours to get to Umpon Yelongi, or Happy Land Village, which was our final destination. And that was our challenge, as we all came from Port Vila, where the means of transportation is not an issue, and we don't usually walk long distance. We began to climb the steep and rocky road, and already we started to feel the pressure on our knees, and you could hear the loud breathing as we walked up the hill. But we were lucky to have the boys from Ponkil with us to help us carry our bags. Otherwise, we wouldn't get there. On our way, we came past some newly grown sandalwood plants, which is something that had been encouraged by the forestry department and undertaken by the villagers to revive this native plant that was almost depleted due to past overlogging practices. The island has a wide variety of species of plants, which are unique and possesses an important reservoir of flora and fauna compared to the other islands in the southern province. It took us more than 2 hours to finally arrive in Happy Land. We were greeted by the villagers with a traditional warrior dance of welcome performed by the men. The special dance was used by their ancestors to end a tribal fight and bring peace among the people.
We want them tell them people thank you long. You follow all delegation long Kaufman long Sabe. Live him all high obvious long you follow. Long stop the long important event here. But Pampa hem stop 2 days long village long Happy Land. We hope that this project Pampa hem is help them community. All get a village, villages more, even Erromango as a whole, and for provincial government, even national government. So Mr. Baskem, all get a leaders, landowners, all get a chief, you meet everyone with them provincial, more national government, long have cooperate together, long support them project here. From by hemi, help him, you me, everyone.
After the speech, we were then invited to a feast with the chief and the community. They have prepared some local food by using their traditional technique of baking. Peeled yams were cut in pieces with meat and covered in banana leaves, which is then placed in an underground pit or earth oven filled with hot coals and stones. They then covered everything with green leaves to keep heat and moisture for several hours before it is cooked. And that was the end of day 1. Day 2 began early in the morning with the preparation of the meeting venue. While Presley was busy arranging the tables and the chairs, Brian was putting the final touch to the newly erected hut that was built purposely for the project with only local materials taken from the forest. It was constructed as part of the project to promote ecotourism within the community as a means to generate income while preserving the natural forest. The place was quickly packed with people coming from the surrounding villages to attend the consultation meeting. After a short opening ceremony of the small conference room, the landowners' meeting proceeded to discuss the different matters concerning the Kauri Reserve. Presley gave a presentation on the project to help the chiefs and the people see and understand the importance of protecting the Kauri Reserve. One of the aims of the project is to empower the community to take ownership of the project and a leading role in conservation activities. There are three main objectives of the project. 1. To conserve the biodiversity in Vanuatu by expanding and consolidating the networks of the protected area. 2. To build the capacity of conservation management and the sustainable use of biodiversity. And 3. To reduce forest and land degradation. The different stakeholders present in the meeting, namely the Department of Forest, the Department of Environment, and the Vanuatu Cultural Center, talked about their roles in the project and how they will assist the communities to sustainably manage their resources. One of the key areas of conservation is the cultural aspect, as the land also holds some of the sacred sites and caves, which is of significant cultural importance to the people of Erromango. In her presentation, Brigitte Labukli from the Vanuatu Cultural Center gave the example of Chief Roimata's domain on the island of Efate, which gained the recognition from the UNESCO and was the first site to be inscribed in Vanuatu in 2008 to become a World Heritage. With the uniqueness of the Kauri Reserve, it can also be nominated to become a World Heritage Site of UNESCO because of its outstanding natural values and for its conservation for the rest of the world to appreciate. She stressed the importance of safeguarding the area and gave an overview of how it can be managed with additional commercial activities around the site that could bring some financial benefits to the community at large without destroying the nature. The area has a big potential to develop ecotourism that can attract international visitors to come to the island. The meeting took the whole day with the participation of community leaders, and it culminated with the signing of an agreement that binded the different landowners who agreed for the project to take place on their land. Everyone who attended the meeting gave their consent to have their forest protected and gave their full support to the project.
With them signing agreement we make him day, or some ones if me really happy lo when I'm signing agreement we make him day. From me look say by him save bring him some development, by save come inside lo community development, even lo side lo management lo resources, by him save control mo the resources, mo by him save use lo one sustainable way. Lo you present day mo lo future time mo him come.
Also Master Chief mo representative lo field worker lo place me work pro people so me look say one good for something lo help them future picking in lo me follow up lo only understand them sustainable development we have stop time only go school only come back only look him only got study too long trees we have stop and run about 2,000-3,000 years ago so me not got long wall so any narfala friend me save help it long come find them out all historical sites lo me you me lo place by me unique lo face lo wall agreement we will sign them the day by come one historical thing way pro future beginning by him thing part lo me fala say when we fala make him me long maintain him life pro future beginning pro me fala only me understand him say one could follow something way me fala make him pro life long all kata or long island ya pro me fala everyone with them all kata beginning we stop come yet
me happy too much some lo titi blow from where me like him start them. After I come, now we are planting money come, me harem good way. Supposedly stand up strong, lo fasten up, lo everyone stop, and me more good. But suppose you me stop serap or me by make my island living by come no good.
By all push me fella, by him stop also we got him make him stop. By also me stop me will I believe all. Bush where me like all the environment where me like live lo him and me sabe help me fala lo give him all good air lo me like sabe live lo him
all Kauri imi receive mi stap imi need to plan em tu lut we mi stap o save bring up tintin bol pingin tu esta campaign bol o da tu save plan em lut
lo tintin lo mi ta mi harem se ikat number blo chief is increase ka manta after we tulanon as well bin akrib lo yusum lan blo kata blo mi conserving tamu mi harem se ikat number hem increase wote mo kata we mi sabe tok wote mo kata lo plesia blo li sabe sign mi lo tintin lo mi klatu mas weta mi lu mi harem se number hem increase and mi sabe se wone mo mi stap hetem naya committee mi stap hetem naya mi believe se hemi ting we mi bela lo association mi bela sta ting lehem.
The community acknowledged the importance of protecting their forests and preserving its biodiversity, as it is a home not only for the kauri and many other species that live alongside them, but also a habitat for other species of animals and plants that live in the nearby forest. Today, many of those endemic species are in danger of extinction, and the community is aware of the impact that the people are causing to their forest as the population is growing. The project will help the communities to better manage it, as this is where they find everything for their survival, such as leaf medicine, hunting, food gathering, building material, collection and sale of sandalwood, and many more.
Busan tapia we mflei site blue preserve emi help em plante lo natural resource we mflei sta benefit lem through lo hunting we mflei sta make em mflei luxe ol samdo mflei sta receive manta blo busa hem help em fla bigwan sem all meat all pig or all naura all sell blo water mflei take em I fresh mo mflei isum I help em fla blo it's a life long place tagam.
Me look importance blo project ya me sabe se pai me really help me fala ol mama from time where you stop keeping all something blo water pai me really help me fala lo future blo me fala time me fala ol mama me fala stakop karemol nasisi lo water mol naura pai stop safe good lo future pai mi fala stop ko karem no mo mi fala stop kamo pai mi fala stop kaka wetem ol pikinini plo mi fala
lo sat lo youth important from all of future by all pikinini plo fla likam oli save yusum project mo lo future sportsna mani ol turis ol Instagram ba il save karam pamphlet sa karamani lo ol kan wakalsia.
On day 3, as the sun was about to rise on the island, a group of men and women from the village, a primary school teacher and his students were gathered and ready to accompany the team on its journey to the Kauri Reserve, as we cannot leave the island without seeing this unique and gigantic ancient of day tree in its natural stand, which stood the test of time until today. Everybody was excited, especially the kids, who were going to use this opportunity as a field trip to actually see, touch and feel the big tree, which their teacher usually taught them in their classroom, as most of them had never seen them before in their natural environment. We knew it was going to be a long day, so the women had prepared some local food for the day. We started the journey by walking through the gardens near the village and continued on through the deep forest across streams, valleys and hills before we reached the grassland on the first plateau. We then moved on to the next mountain, which houses the colony of the Kauri, and it took us about 3 hours to finally reach it. As we looked through the bushes, in our amazement, there stood the white, mighty and majestic Kauri tree right in front of us. We couldn't believe our eyes. The trees were so huge that they stand out in the middle of other trees, and they were very, very tall, about 30 to 40 meters high, And for some of us, it was our first time to see such a giant tree. As we continued to walk, we discovered more and more of them, and they usually grow on the ridge of the hills and mountains where lesser trees grow, so they have more space and more sunlight.
Ting block keep him we have unique to Vanuatu, especially land Erromango. From the original forest plimi now. We will find them out Ikatsamvala country or Lilusum. Original place where all supposed to live them. Lo some example we will find them out Ikat full of all place and been destroyed. And with them thinking yeah, make me valid in this strong say let me keep him original place plimi by me must have. You know Luminaya, the generation by gam. You must keep it from only Putakpus plimi help lo sustaining me too. But them all something around me.
It was an exciting day for the students to see them standing in front of the mighty tree and listening to their teacher giving them a lesson on the Kauri or Nendu, as they call it in the local dialect.
Yes, it could be mascate. Plol begin blow future bal can play look too.
Chief Matthew Say told us that the main Kauri-rich areas in the southeast were logged by a French company called Société d'Agatis from 1968 to 1974 from a base establishment at Ipota, which included a sawmill with a capacity of 400 cubic meters per month. An area of about 5,000 hectares was logged. This produced about 60,000 cubic meters of kauri, mainly for export as logs to France and New Zealand. At that time, as a young man, he used to work with that company.
Mi pin work lo company, akatis mi look se mi vola ispodem ol kauri pro mi fala. Oli mo pick one ipiti me meista. Mo hamas we hemi lus lo solwara hemi 200 block. Ol pick one. Mekem se mi fili mi no good lo mi. Mekem se mi tok plan de with them kata lo company. Mekem se oli out de mi. Oli saka out mi lo work. From recent ano mo mi sta pare mo lo kauri lo mi fala.
It was a very long and tiring journey, and it took us the whole day to see the reserve, but very rewarding, as we don't know if we would ever come back one day to see the Nendu or Kauri again in its natural stands. The fourth day was our final day in Happy Land, and the village men and women had prepared some surprises for us. Before we left, they wanted to make us see some of their cultural activities. The women presented us with the popo dance, where everyone danced and forming a circle around one of them that is holding a popo tree and standing in the middle. At the end of the dance, everyone would move closer to the center, and it symbolizes unity and sharing in a community. The men also gave us a traditional dance, which symbolizes the sealing of an agreement. It is normally performed after the chiefs had agreed on something they have discussed and passed in a meeting. We also had the opportunity to see the different types of arts and crafts that women do and their traditional ways of preparing food. All of these in a traditional setting. We were marveled at what they can do, and it showed how talented they were. of the benefits that the project could bring is ecotourism, where the community would organize cultural activities for tourists and also to build local bungalows to accommodate the visitors. And it was exactly what we have seen on our trip. 4 bungalows were being built by the locals, each one containing 2 beds with toilets and bathrooms, and the accommodation includes meals. There is an 8-post which services the community, and mobile network coverage is also available and is provided by the 2 main telecommunication providers.
Time tourist, or you talk about tourist time and become many hemicolo forest, the same time too, or same behalf all half the community, or must got benefit lo project we start, or same bungalow we build them, and at something or some current, and all different species lo current, or some banana, everything, more inside the forest lo solwata, sabe making money too.
Other related products can also be developed, such as calendars, postcards, and many more, where the profits generated can be directed to the communities and to sustain the project. As we know, all the good things have an end, and for the team, we had to leave because time was running very fast and we still had a long way to walk down to Ponkil before we take the boat back to Dillon's Bay. Our journey in Happy Land ended in a special way when we had a feast with the local community. Then it was time to leave. With our bags on our backs and the good memories of Nendu, we were led by some villagers down to the seashores of Ponkil, where the boat was waiting for us. Just by seeing the way they have worked closely with the team during the 4-day tour and all the preparations that they have done, the cultural activities and the local bungalows, it gave Presley and the team the assurance that they were ready to take up the challenge. This special area is undoubtedly a very important and stunning attraction, and visitors will be able to experience the breathtaking beauty of ancient trees. Erromango is considered one of the best islands in Vanuatu for trekking or walking. As we were leaving, we knew that the most important part of the mission has been completed, where the landowners have signed the agreement to make share their land for the creation of a community conservation area and allow for conservation. But the next step is to see other landowners coming on board, as according to the legislation for the legal registration of a conservation area, all landowners have to agree and that the boundary has to be surveyed. There are also other important areas that need to be done, which includes the mapping of the area, the management plan, the establishment of a nursery, and capacity building. And that is the next challenge if the people of Erromango want to see the project being materialized, and they have nothing to lose, as it will only be beneficial for them now and for future generations.
To better manage and conserve our Kauri trees, we must work to better manage and conserve our Kauri trees. Importance of forests and biodiversity. Sustainable development has been well recognized by the global community. By measuring what we treasure, we can find innovative ways to conserve, restore and build
Erromango bifala highlands and beach morning. Driwe iflawa mulwe isai. Bifala hilwe orai road. Kauri blow me now me praise him God. Now me want them Kauri blow me. All time me less and long talk long God. All time me fall more blood long him. Kauri blow me now me praise him God. Erromango bifala highlands and beach morning. Driwe iflawa mulwe isai. Bifala hilwe orai road. Kauri blow me now me praise him God. Now me want them Kauri blow me. All time me less and long talk long God. All time me fall more blood long him. Kauri blow me now me praise him God.